My top 15 fall pumpkin wreaths. Hello my sweet friends and welcome to DIY with Nadia. My co-host is Simba and we are about to have some fun. Whether you're using a Dollar Tree pumpkin base or a craft store pumpkin base, it really doesn't matter. Well, I'm going to be using basics in these wreaths like fabric, yarn, deco mesh, or ribbon. You're going to see other unique things that I use to make these pumpkin wreaths. And now it's time to grab your favorite drink, a snack, get comfy, and enjoy this video. For this pumpkin wreath, I'm going to be using 2 pumpkin wreath forms. And before you actually start this wreath, make sure that your pumpkin wreaths fit one on top of each other nicely. So I'm going to take this top one off and I'm going to grab burlap. This one was thrifted and this is actually a sack, so it's doubled. If you're working with burlap that's thinner, you might consider putting a fabric underneath and then the burlap. Also for this wreath, we're going to be using zip ties instead of hot glue to attach everything. Now I'm going to put my other pumpkin right on top and I'm just going to start by bringing one of the zip ties in from the bottom and zip tying it in the back, keeping in mind we need to make sure to catch the top pumpkin and the bottom pumpkin wreath form. Now that my sides are done, I'm going to work from the back just because it's easier. Now I'm cutting 2 slits to bring in this part because I want to cover this in some nautical rope. And so I'm going to grab another zip tie and take care of that. And now all the rest of these, I'm just going to start folding and zip tying them in place. Make sure you're catching both of the pumpkin wreath forms. Tighten it up to the back and let's cut off that tail. That's it. We're just going to continue doing this, going all the way around. As you can see, I'm attaching my zip ties about 1.5 to 2 inches. I feel like my burlap is in place. And now I'm going to cut off the excess, but not too close to the edge. I'm not going to be doing 1 inch like I usually do with fabric. This time I'm going to go off maybe 2 inches because burlap just frays a lot more. And if you want to give it a dot of glue and just hot glue it in place, you can definitely do that. Now that our base is done, let's do the edging to make sure we cover all the zip ties. Grabbing some nautical rope, and I'm just going to start from the top right here from the center. And this first one is just going to go right along the bottom edge of our pumpkin. We are going to do 2 rows, so if your zip tie shows, don't worry about it. Our main goal with this first row is to cover the edge. This second row is going to be a piece of cake. You're just going to put hot glue right there in the crease between your nautical rope and the actual wreath form, and this is what's going to cover all the zip ties, and it's going to give you a neat little edging on your pumpkin. The rest of the nautical rope, I'm just going to twist around and hot glue to our actual pumpkin stem. Now it's time to decorate this pumpkin, and I decided to go for this gorgeous yellow and blue. These daisies have yellow on the inside, and then of course these mums are so bright and beautiful. After pulling up all the greenery on my daisies, I'm going to snip them all off as far as I can. Because we're working on a flat surface, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all my daisies at 90 degrees right here. Same thing with the mums. We're just going to get all the greenery up, and what we're going to do is we're going to pick the longer ones and leave those alone, but the shorter ones we're going to face forward. Now we need to see how big we want this, how far we want these to go on our pumpkin, and then we're going to bring our daisies in, 3 on each side. Before I zip tie these in place, I want to make sure that I make room for our bow. Okay, my florals are done. Now I'm going to grab some ribbon. I got this ribbon at Hobby Lobby, and of course, I try to get these when Hobby Lobby has sales. Let's measure how long we want our tail to be. Make our bow. And I'm just making a simple bow. Let's bring the bow together with a little clip. And then I decided to add a little blue ribbon. This one's 5/8 of an inch. I'm going to make a little simple bow. Grabbing a little floral wire, we're going to bring it together nice and tight in the back. Because the blue ribbon is on top, we're going to need yellow. So that's why I got 2 inches of this yellow one, and I'm folding it in to make it smaller. I think that'll be fine. And then bring it back. Now I'm just going to tie the bow to the back of our greenery. I'm going to be using zip ties to attach it to the actual wreath form. 2 inches from the actual top. And then I'm going to go around the stem here. I'm going to go back down and I'm going to zip tie it in the back. This is what it's going to look like. I'm going to do the same thing right here. Zip tie it in the back and cut off the excess. Now that everything's attached, I'm going to cut my ribbon on an angle. Let's go through the supplies for this wreath, starting with the pumpkin wreath base. Some poofy yarn. I'm going to use 2 types of ribbon. This one is 1.5 inch, 2.5 inch. Both are wired. A fabric piece that's 18 by 21 inches. And you can use florals. These are leaves. I have some orange and some yellow with orange tips on them. And I will be using a few zip ties. And grab this buffalo check. Now I'm going to clamp the sides in place. That looks good to me. So what I like to do is do side first. Then this side. Bring it in at the bottom. And this gives you the biggest chance of having everything more or less evened out and nicely attached. And I'm going to complete hot gluing all the way around. To take care of the top, I'm just going to cut in on both sides of the stem and fold that in. Let's add a little bit of hot glue and then hot glue the sides. Now I'm going to go around and about 1/2 inch to 1 inch from the edge, I'm going to trim the fabric. Now that the edges are done, I'm going to bring in the yarn and I'm going to start by taking care of the stem. Let's hot glue this in place. And I'm just putting hot glue on both sides. Here you go, dabbing a little bit of hot glue. Now I'm going to go down the lines and hot glue the yarn on the skeleton of the wreath base. And then at the end, we're going to go around, starting with the very side one. Next, I'm going to go all the way around on the outside of the pumpkin. We're going to connect all our yarn pieces, and I'm starting at the top. I decided to make a layered bow for this wreath. So I'm going to start with my 2 inch and then go into my 1.5 inch ribbon. I'm going to be using my bow maker. Start with a long tail. This is a one-sided ribbon. Twist right away and start making my bow. Going to twist. There's bow number 1. Let's bring in our buffalo check ribbon. And this one, believe it or not, is also one-sided. You can definitely tell where that is. So I am going to twist as I'm putting this one on. And this one I'm going to make a little bit shorter. I decided to make 4 loops with my buffalo check ribbon. I'm going to twist before we make the other loop. And the reason for that is I want this bow to show up a little bit. 2 loops at the top, 2 loops at the bottom. And that way we're going to have a gorgeous, gorgeous bow. Twist and down. Cut off the excess. When our bow's on our wreath, we're going to puff it out and put something in the center. To arrange my leaves, what I decided to do is have a big bundle right here. So I'm going to take a red one and a yellow one and do a bigger bundle on this side. Then we're going to have the bow here, and then on this side, we're going to have this little one. The first thing I'm going to do is get rid of all of this extra wiring that we don't need. Using floral wire, I'm going to cut off the remaining tail that I don't need, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Otherwise, the tails are just going to be sticking out. Let's bring the leaves together. Pull some of these yellows through to the front, mix them in. I like that. Put the other one underneath, and I'm zip tying everything together. Because we are making simple bows, I don't want there to be too much emptiness right here, so that is why I am overlapping them so much. If you feel like there's more that needs to be attached, go ahead, zip tie them, use floral wire, whatever you would like, until you feel like it has a good hold. Now I'm going to bend these into an upside down V. That looks good. Let's attach the bow to our leaves. Few twists, go back and forth since I still have a little bit of wire left. Why not, right? Oh my goodness, look how pretty. And the tails I'm going to cut once everything is on our wreath. For the center, I'm going to grab a green vase filler. You can use anything you have on hand. As I always say, you can use maybe a button. I mean, really, anything. Even an acorn would go here if you wanted to. But I am going to grab a green one because I wanted to bring out a little bit of that greenery that's in the ribbon. I thought it would look really, really pretty. One of the most important things is to decide where to place your whole bundle. I'm going to try not to push it all the way up, because when you do and the wreath is flat against the wall, you can't see it because it's on top. So I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. I think that looks really, really good. With my finger, I'm kind of saving the spot where it's going. And I am going to use an awl to put a zip tie in there. If you're using a floral wire, that's even better. But I'm going to go ahead and put a zip tie there. Make another hole. Going to push the zip tie out. I went around one of the wires. With my zip tie, I went right underneath all those vines, and it's still going to be hidden. So I am going to go, and just like that, I'm going to zip it up, cut the tail, and then hide the nub behind the bow. This is not a flat surface, so you do want to consider taking your leaves and then kind of folding them against the pumpkin. Same thing on this side. Lay it down so it's not sticking up. Actually loving the length of the ribbon. I'm going to go ahead and cut it right there. Decided to make my buffalo check just a little bit shorter. This pumpkin is all done, and I'm loving the buffalo check with the orange. What a beautiful combo. Let's run through the supplies real quick, starting with a pumpkin wreath form base, a roll of black yarn, a black roll, and an orange roll of candy corn ribbon. Both of these are 2.5 inches and they are wired. Then I'm going to use 2 of these super cute candy corn picks. A few more gorgeous picks. These I got at Michael's. I got 2 of the ivory, 2 of the orange, and 2 of the yellow. The next thing we're going to do is grab our yarn, and we're going to wrap around all of the wreath wiring. When I do projects like this, I just like to cut off a big piece and work with that piece. I always like to start on the metal rows, the ones that are 3D. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tie at the top, and then instead of cutting it, I'm going to wrap around it. And it's going to give us a little bit of extra security, and you just wrap it around. At this point, I'm going to turn some kind of a show on, and off I go. I'm done working on this row, and all I did was just loop this and make a little knot with the yarn. Row 2 is done, and same thing. I'm going to make a little loop, tie it in a knot. Okay, my friends, this was fairly tedious and it took me an hour to do. So I do recommend grabbing yarn that's a little bit thicker. So what I'm going to do to go around is I'm going to double my yarn. I'm going to start at the top and go around. Hopefully, because it's going to be thicker, it's going to be a lot quicker and nicer of an edge. Yes, doubling it does go a bit quicker. Off to a nice start, and I'm going to go all the way around. As I'm starting going towards the bottom, I'm going to start pulling in those tails and wrapping the double twine around them. I made it all the way around, and now I'm going to use my end piece to knot at the end. The tail that's left over, I'm going to hide in the stem. To cover the stem, I'm going to use a piece of this velvet ribbon. This stem is all done. Now it's time to decorate. To decorate our pumpkin, I'm going to start by working on our picks. Let's take all the price tags off first. I'm going to get started by laying out our Pumpus picks first, putting the candy corn right on top and zip tying it. And I'm going to do the same thing with this set. I think this is really good. We can make it higher or lower. I think somewhere right there is perfect because our bow is going to go right here. Zip tie one side. I zip tied everything together to the wire here, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the wire on the other side. My picks are nicely secured. Time to work on our bow. I'm doing a funky bow for this wreath. That's why I have my measuring mat out, and I'm going to cut 4 strips of this black ribbon at 20 inches each. Then I'm going to fold in half on the ends and cut dovetails. Going to do the same thing with the orange ribbon and cut 4 strips at 20 inches each. I'm also going to be cutting dovetails on this ribbon. The ribbon is ready. The bow maker is just to hold the ribbon in place as we're making the bow. I'm going to fold the ribbon in half, and I'm going to pinch it at 4.5 from the loop side because I want to make sure that the tail sticks out just a little bit. And then when I have it together, I'm going to go to the tail underneath and I'm going to twist it. That way we don't have to worry about the tail later. Going to go in with the second orange ribbon. Let's measure. This time I'm going to put the loop on one side and the tail on the other side. Once again, we're going to go to that lower tail and twist it so it's facing up and lay it down. Next, we have our black ribbon. I'm going to continue doing this until I'm done with all the ribbon, making sure that the tails and the loops are always going the opposite way. The fun part is you can already see the bow forming. Let's do the second black ribbon. Since the tails are on the left, I'm going to put these on the right. This is really high quality ribbon. I'm already seeing how high this is going to be. Oh my goodness, look at the side. Yes. And this is why I'm a fan of a good old zip tie. Lift my bow just a little bit and I'm going to go sideways in between the dowels with the zip tie. Do a few clicks here, take it out, and now we can really zip tie this together. Grabbing another zip tie, we are going to zip tie it right in the center onto the picks. Picks are on really securely, so I'm not even worried about that. Now it's time to do my favorite part, and of course, open up the ribbon. I am just loving how fun and beautiful this wreath turned out. Let's go over the supplies we're going to need for this very fall pumpkin wreath. First, we're going to use a pumpkin wreath form. When it comes to decoupage, you don't have to use a 21-inch decoupage that I'm using here. You can use anything you have on hand, maybe 10-inch, maybe even 6-inch. Just layer some one on top of the other so that you can attach. I have this one left over from a previous project, and I think it's going to make a gorgeous wreath. For my ribbon, I'm going to use 2.5-inch wired ribbon. One is black, and the other one is this iridescent orange that's going to match my little decor. This decor was thrifted from a while ago, but you can use any berries, anything you have on hand. And then I am going to use some feathers. These I got on a really good clearance at Michael's, but you can also use these little curls from the Dollar Tree. These are really fun to use. Some pipe cleaners and a zip tie or two. The first thing I want to take care of is the top of my pumpkin, and because the ribbon that I'm using is sheer, I'm going to grab some ribbon that I have on hand, and this is a very pretty felt one. Cut off a piece that's maybe 6 inches in length, a little bit of hot glue on top, just going to fold in the sides and fold over for a neater look. With the top nicely taken care of, next I'm going to grab 4 pipe cleaners. Using 21-inch decoupage, I could probably even get away with using 3, but in this case, I am going to use 4, and I'm going to make a beautifully full wreath. Fold my pipe cleaners in half and cut. I'm going to attach pipe cleaners on both of these outside rows and the 2 inside rows. Twist them in place. If you are using 10-inch decoupage or 6-inch decoupage, I would definitely use 6 pipe cleaners, but I would also layer 2 or 3 on, especially with the smaller decoupage, to make sure that you get that fullness. With the 21-inch decoupage, it's so easy. Let's get our gorgeous decoupage. Let's collect it. When I collected my tail, I'm going to start on the outside row. Lock that pipe cleaner in place because I know that this is going to be thick enough to cover this area. Because the tail is kind of in the air, I am going to grab a zip tie and zip tie it to the actual wreath base. Let's cut off the excess, any of the fraying. And now we are ready to go up and down attaching our decoupage. Here I'm going to go up, attach it to the other side, and I do like attaching it to the back. That way I know that it's kind of tight in the back and it should stay in the back. Now you have to decide if you're just going to go from top and keep on going this way, or you are going to cover the back. So in the back, I'm going to go flat. I like covering the back. To our next pipe cleaner, go ahead and wrap that pumpkin over. The edges I'm going to fold over. And I like this part to be a little bit looser because I do want to make sure that it covers as much as possible. And I want the pumpkin to be a little bit on the fluffy side. Then I'm going to the pipe cleaner that is right on top. And same thing, I like to make sure that I'm tying it in the back. Pull back if you have to. I want to make sure I have enough floof, so I went back a little bit. And now I'm going to tie it to the next pipe cleaner. A few twists there. Going back up to the pipe cleaner on the other side. Twist it in place. Hide that. Now we're going to this last row. Twist. And the last time that we are going over, make sure that edge is hidden. And once again, I am going to put it upside down in order to connect. Let's cut off the excess, and I'm going way beyond what we need. I can always cut off the remaining tail, but I do want to make sure that I'm nice and filled in right here. Oh, that looks beautiful. Fold the end over and tie it in the back. A few twists. Let's fold that over. It's kind of curling in nicely. I'm just going to tuck it right there to fill in that space. And now we can make sure that our pumpkin is nice and fluffy. Go over the little rivets. Make sure everything is beautiful. I thought covering this pumpkin was super easy, especially when we're talking about Deco mesh. We basically attached it in the back and just kept on going around and around and around and attached it at the end. I thought this was super easy. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with that. Next, we are going to decorate the pumpkin. This pumpkin is so poofy. For decor, I decided to do the decor on the side and then the bow right here. First thing I want to do is open up my feathers. This thrifted item is kind of falling apart, so I don't even know why that's there. I'm going to put that on the side, and then I'm just going to lay this out, and I'm going to zip tie everything together. I'm going to put another zip tie quite a bit lower. Cut off the tails. About an inch from my second zip tie, I'm going to cut off the tails. I'm ready to put the decor right on the pumpkin, and I want it about there. So what I decided to do is I'm going to grab a zip tie, and I'm going to zip tie it straight onto the pumpkin. I felt for the wire. And then if you need to stabilize it, you could definitely use some black floral wire and attach it at the base. So now my zip tie is going right above that first zip tie. That way it will hold it in place. Second connection on the other wire. Cut that off. This is securely locked in. Move things around if I need to. And then we're going to put a bow right here that's going to cover all of this up. I'll be using a bow maker to make this bow. It just makes things so much easier. We're going to make a 6-inch tail, maybe 6.5. If your ribbon is double-sided, I know you can probably not tell, but this one is one-sided because the glitter is on one side and on the other side it is plain. So I'm going to twist every time I go through the center. I'm going to make, and every time I go through the center, I'm going to twist. I'm going to make 6 loops with this ribbon just because I want to finish it up. Looking at this ribbon, it is super, super shiny. So what I decided to do is put this bow on top, and that's okay. I'm just going to take a big clamp and clamp it as is. Use the other ribbon to make the bow. Here I decided to, let's go 5.5 inches on this one. This is a tough ribbon. Twist in the center. Using this one up also. Twist. I made 5 loops with this gorgeous ribbon. Let's cut the tail off a little bit. And then we're going to put the black one right on top. To bring the bow together, I'm going to use a zip tie. And the way I like to do this is while the entire bow is still on the bow maker, I'm going to make a few clicks and take it off. Make sure you're in the center and then complete the bow that way. Grab a black floral wire, and I'm going to use the floral wire to attach it to the wreath itself. Next, I'm going to make dovetails by folding the ribbon in half and cutting it from inside out. This tail ended up being a little longer, but when I have situations like that, I tend to just leave it, and then when the bow is on the wreath itself, I decide whether I want to make it shorter or not. Let's attach to the wreath. Wrapped it around. On top, I'm just going to twist it in place, hide the tail. This one's actually really, really long, so I'm going to cut the excess and fold it back. Now I'm going to start fluffing out the tail. Just open up those loops. This turned out even prettier than I had in my head. I'm going to leave this tail as it is because I think it is so pretty there. And that is it for this beautiful Glam pumpkin wreath. Here are the few supplies you're going to need for this pumpkin wreath. Of course, we are going to need the pumpkin wreath base, 2 types of wired 2.5-inch ribbon that are going to match your florals, some fabric. You're going to need some florals, and I recommend grabbing those that will fill up the space really nicely. These mums from the Dollar Tree are really good for this. Fun eucalyptus. This one is brown, has sparkles all over it. If you don't want to deal with all the sparkles, you can use some spray Mod Podge or just spray it with some hairspray. The first thing we're going to do is cover our pumpkin with some fabric. This is going to be a nice base to attach our flowers. My piece of fabric is 23 inches by 16 in height. Before I hot glue my fabric to my pumpkin, I like to clamp the sides so that I know my fabric is centered. I always like working side to side so that we can stretch the fabric out nicely, and then top to bottom. Lastly, I'm filling in the corners. Next, I'm trimming all the edges, and I'm going about 1/2 inch to 1 inch from the edge. Now we're just going to flip our pumpkin over and start getting all those florals. I'm going to be filling the pumpkin from the bottom going towards the top, and I'm not going to be filling up completely at the top because we are going to do a big bow right here. That is why I did not touch the top of this. We're going to use this as a hanger because our bow is going to sit on top. To prepare my flowers, I'm going to cut the stem a little bit away from where it's connecting because I do not want to destroy that flower. I'm going to give it lots of hot glue, and then I'm going to give an extra little bundle on top and attach. Another way to do this is just do all the tops, and I think I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to attach them to the wreath itself. A quick close-up, going to cut the tip but not all the way, and then I'm going to give a heaping dose of hot glue so that all of that tip is locked in and the flower is not going to come apart. I'm going to start on the outside of the pumpkin, leaving space for my bow. I can always add a flower here and there if I have to, but I don't want the bow to be on top of the wreath because it's just going to be a bit too much. So I'm going to attach the flowers everywhere but the space that I left for my bow. I'm done filling in the edge, and now I'm going to fill in this section right here. I have added 10 more florals for a total of 30 flowers or 6 stems. All the florals are on, and now it's time to make the bow. I'm going to be using this thrifted ribbon, and it is this stunning mocha color, and it has pinkish burgundy iridescence to it, really pretty. And I'm going to pair it with this ribbon I got from Hobby Lobby that has beautiful oranges and browns. Both of these are 2.5 inches and wired. I'm going to be using a bow maker to make our bows. I'm going to put 2 dowels in these 2 front center holes. I'm going to start with that beautiful ribbon from Hobby Lobby. Measure off 7 inches, and since this is a one-sided ribbon, I'm going to twist every time I'm going through the dowels. Tail down and start by making a 6-inch loop. I know that's big, but we have a big area to cover. We're going through the dowels. Let's twist it. Making another loop, twist it, and a 3rd loop. I'm going to make just 3 loops, cut off at 7 inches. And then we're going to use the ribbon again, but in between, I'm going to take this beautiful thrifted ribbon, and I don't have a lot of it, so I'm going to see how far I can take it. Twist in the center because this is a one-sided ribbon. Hello, Simba. As you saw, my little Simba walked by. And this time I'm going to go down 1/2 inch at 5.5 inches. And twist. Going through the center, get my 5.5 inches and twist. 5.5 inches. And the last loop, 5.5 inches. I do have a little bit of a tail, which is just fine. I'm going to cut it off at 7. And then I'm going to come in with my initial ribbon. Because I have the tails on this side, I'm going to put my tails on the opposite side. Twist it, and this time I'm going to go down to 5 inches. Twist in the center. Simba needs to inspect it, I see. 5 inches, and one more at 5 inches. That'll give me 3 of these loops on top. Let's cut this off, and this time the tail is going to go on top. I'm going to take a zip tie to bring my bow together. I like to give my zip tie a few clicks with the bow still on my bow maker, then take it off, tighten it up. And here I'm going to kind of poof the bow up a little bit because I'm going to add the little eucalyptus that we have, and I want to make sure that it's going in the right place. So I'm going to eye it. It's going to go behind the bow like this. That looks good. Let's flip it. I'm going to have the eucalyptus crisscross at the top because I know I want it to go down. Grabbing another zip tie. I'm going to zip tie all of this in place. Make sure you have it nice and tight. To make sure that it does not slide off, I'm actually going to fold the ends back behind the zip tie, so in case it does slide, I'm not worried that it's going to come off. Just like this. I'm going to be attaching my bow by actually attaching the eucalyptus. Find my center, grab an awl, make a hole, go in there with my zip tie, make a hole on the other side, and of course you can use a floral wire, but I trust the zip ties when it comes to my florals, and I do have quite a large bow, so I do want to make sure it's nicely secured. Here's my zip tie on this wire. I'm going to do the same thing right here. I put my wreath upside down because it's easier to attach, and I'm going to be attaching the zip ties right here to my eucalyptus on both sides. Now I'm going to go to all the tail endings and make dovetails. And now it's time to play with our bow and make sure the tails are doing their job. Make sure all of our loops are open. And if I feel like I'm not going to have enough flowers right here, I'm going to fill that in. Let's just poof everything out so we can see what's going on. The bow is all done. I'm just spreading the little eucalyptus so it's not in one clump. And we are done with this gorgeous, gorgeous pumpkin. Here are the supplies we're going to need for this pumpkin wreath. We are using a Dollar Tree pumpkin wreath form, a beautiful fall sign, 14 pipe cleaners, 3 different types of ribbon. These are all 1.5 inches in width. All are wired. To measure my ribbon, I'm going to be using one of these little cutting mats. Let's prepare our pipe cleaners. We're going to be cutting these in 3 to make about 4-inch little strips. You're really not going to need more than that. And I always do this. I grab them in the center, fold them in a little V. That way you could just grab these and put them straight onto your bundle. When it comes to the ribbon, you're going to need around 8 yards, actually a little bit over. So grab the 10-yard rolls of ribbon. And I'm going to be cutting these into 7-inch strips. We are going to do dovetails on the side, so I'm going to zigzag. We're going to need 42 of these. To make the dovetails, I'm simply going to take both ends, fold them in half, and cut out a little triangle. We're going to do the same thing with this ribbon and this one, 7 inches and 42 pieces. Just like that. Everything is cut up, and now it's time to make our little bundles. I'm going to start with the orange, then the green, and then the prettiest one on top in the center. You can either just eye it and bring it together in the center, or use a cutting mat and see where that center is. Bring it together, grab a pipe cleaner right over the center, push everything back, and we're going to give it 2 to 3 twists. Off I go, making 42 of these beautiful little ribbon bundles. So just like that, gather in the center, grab one of your pipe cleaner pieces, push it back, 2 to 3 twists in the back, and you have your beautiful ribbon bundle. All my ribbon bundles are done. Now it's time to take care of the top. And what I decided to do is make it a little bit bigger because I figured that this is going to be one of those poofier wreaths, and this is just a little bit too small. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a piece of foil and just wrap it around the stem. Make sure you lock it right there. Just improvise and make it a little bit bigger. It does not need to be perfect at all. Now I'm taking a brown piece of ribbon. You can take whatever you have on hand, starting with the back, hot glue it in place, and just keep on wrapping it around. To attach our ribbon bundles, I'm going to be using the 6 rows on top of the pumpkin, not the base itself, because the outer row is going to cover that. In the outer rows, we're going to be attaching 6 bundles, then 7, and then in the middle 2, we're going to be attaching 8 because these are the longest ones. When doing wreaths like this, I like to put my wreath form upside down. It's just easier to attach. I'm going to start on the side where we're going to attach 6. When I'm done attaching, that's when I'm going to open everything up. So now I'm just going to twist, and then the tail, I'm going to twist around the base. I cannot wait to open up all these bundles because so far it's looking so sparse. It's almost nerve-wracking, but you know what? I'm going to go ahead and finish up putting all of these bundles on. Right now I'm working on that second row from the outside, which means here I'm putting 7 of these bundles, and then right there in the center, once again, we're doing 8. Before we open everything up, we're going to attach the sign. So I took the 2 center rows and I have 4 bundles on one side, 4 bundles on the other side. That way we can put on the sign and then bring everything up as we're opening it. The first thing I'm going to do is detach my sign from the board that it's on. I'm just going to wiggle it back and forth. Using a nice pair of scissors, I'm going to cut off that excess. That looks good, but I do not like this little bow, so I'm going to take that off. Bringing in the brown ribbon I originally used, I'm going to make a quick little 2-loop simple bow using a floral wire. I'm going to bring it together in the center, cut the little tails, a little bit of hot glue, attach it to the sign. For the center of the bow, I'm going to grab an orange rhinestone I have on hand. You can use a button, maybe a little flower, whatever you have would work. And I'm just going to put that right smack in the middle. Let's flip. To attach the pumpkin, I have 2 pieces of felt. I grabbed 1 floral wire that I cut in half, and I'm going to be attaching right in the center. Hot glue on top and the bottom of the floral wire, and then I'm putting the little felt piece right on top. Let's attach the sign. A few good twists. When the sign looks good to you, go ahead and flip it over and hot glue it in place. I usually don't hot glue anything I do in place when it comes to ribbon bundles or even deco mesh, but in this case, I think you have to, just to make sure things are not flying around. The sign is on. Now I'm going to start opening up all those beautiful ribbon bundles. I am hot gluing all the ribbon bundles on that first row that I did, the one that has 7 bundles. Now that I've done my 1 row, I see that all the bundles fit beautifully, about 1.5 inches apart from each other. I am going to do the same thing on that outside row. In the middle, I'm just going to space these out evenly and hot glue them in place. I feel like hot gluing these guys in place is a great idea because now that everything is settled, it's going to be much easier to open it up to just form the wreath how you want it to be. All the ribbon bundles are hot glued in place, and now that they're stable, we're just going to open them and set them in place. When working on your ribbon bundles, it's always good to start at the bottom. That way you're going to layer everything on top and it's going to sit a little bit nicer. I'll tell you, my friends, this was a fun one to make. Here are the supplies for this pumpkin wreath. Starting with 2 pumpkin wreath forms, make sure that they align nicely together because we are going to put one on top of the other. For the florals, I'm using 2 bushels of this gorgeous blue pumpkin maple and 2 bushels of mums. You're also going to need a piece of fabric that's around 23 by 16 inches at least. And then I am going to be using this Ivory burlap that I got from the Dollar Tree. This one's 18 by 21. The star of the show is this gorgeous blue velvet 1-inch ribbon. We're also going to be using some of this nautical rope. The first thing I'm going to do is attach the fabric. Figure out which pumpkin wreath base you want on top and put that to the side. Now we can work on the bottom pumpkin and cover it in fabric. I'm going to work side to side, top to bottom. It's good to clamp everything in place and then start hot gluing. That looks good to me. I'm putting the hot glue straight onto the wreath base. Next, I'm going to do the corners. Trim about 1/2 inch to 1 inch on the edges. Next, I'm grabbing my burlap, overlap it on my pumpkin, bring in that second pumpkin that we have, and we're going to use our zip ties. I do want to make sure that we are nicely covered at the top, so I'm going to start by zip tying this center. Put in an awl and then our zip tie. If you're using a burlap that's less transparent, you may not need to do the white background at all. But in my case, I really thought I did. Cut that off. And now I'm going to make sure that our burlap is nice and taut, and I'm going to attach at the bottom. Now that I have the top and the bottom done, I'm going to go side to side and then anywhere I feel like we need a zip tie. I cut off all the excess burlap and now I'm just hot gluing the edges in place. Next, I want to take care of the stem. I'm grabbing a piece of brown felt, but you can take anything you would like. And I'm going to hot glue it in place. Then I'm going to take care of it in the back. Next, I'm going to take the nautical rope and I'm going to start hot gluing it right to the edges of my wreath base. Before I cut this off, I'm going to go in between and put some hot glue in there so the whole braid is holding before I cut it. And here is how we finished the rope. Let's make our florals. And the first thing I want to do is I do want to have the pumpkins kind of stick out. Make sure all the leaves are facing up. If there are berries, bring those up. Those are gorgeous. Now we're going to put our mums on, and I'm going to do a little bit of a 90-degree angle so that the mum is facing up, but do make sure that you have some hot glue right there to make sure that the flower stays in place. 5 I'm going to put facing one way, and 5 are going to be facing the other way. In the center of this is going to be the bow. At this point, I like the way this looks, so I am going to grab a zip tie and bring this all together. Before you tighten your zip tie all the way, make sure that nothing flipped to the back. 2 more zip ties to make sure everything is nice and stable. At this time, I'm going to take my whole arrangement and I'm going to bend it in the center. Not too much, just so it's swaying down. That way, when we put it on our pumpkin, it's going to look beautiful. When I know where I want my florals to be, I'm going to go ahead and put zip ties in. And I'm going to attach my florals to the 2 center rows. Okay, let's attach. Now that that's done, I'm grabbing the star of the show. I think this ribbon is just so stunning. I'm going to measure the tail. Then we're going to make a simple bow. Simple 2 loops. Going to see how that looks, and I think that looks lovely. Let me just clamp it right there. I'm grabbing about 10 inches of floral wire. Wrap it around our beautiful bow. Make sure my loops are even before I tighten it. So just bring them together like this. When I know my loops are even, twist it a few times. In all honesty, this bow really doesn't need anything in the center, but you know what? I am going to go ahead and cut just a tiny piece, cut it off a little bit, just to cover that center. And we're going to cover it with that same gorgeous blue ribbon. I did not want to put another color on here. This ribbon does not need any help in that department. It is absolutely stunning. Let me just hot glue that in place. And now I'm just going to wrap my floral wire around our base. It's quite a sturdy base. We don't need to go through the pumpkin or anything like that. I'm twisting the floral wire in place, and then I'm going to make sure that the mums are holding up my bow beautifully. At the bottom, I'm just going to cut my tails on an angle. And I think this wreath is so elegant and beautiful. To get started on our very easy and fun pumpkin wreath, I'm going to need, of course, a pumpkin wreath form from the Dollar Tree. Then I will be using 6 rolls of Deco mesh. And we're also going to need some pipe cleaners, or chenille stems as some of you call them. We're going to start by getting 12 pipe cleaners, and I'm going to be using these gold ones. To get started, I'm going to put my chenille wires on, and how I do it is, first, let's just find our halfway point right there. And the way I like to do it is I'll bring it in, then I'll twist it around this side, right there, and then I'm going to give it the first twist. That way it's not going to go anywhere. I'll do it again. Come on either side. So if I'm coming on this side, let's find our halfway point. I'm going to wrap around the other side of my wire right here, and then give it that first twist. There you go. It's going nowhere. I'm going to continue doing this to all the endings. To start, I'm going to grab my Deco mesh and start unrolling them. And now I'm layering one on top of the other. I don't know if you can see this, but one of my Deco mesh is really messed up on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this one on top, meaning when I flip this over, it's going to be at the bottom. So I'm going to unroll this third one as my first one because it's the prettiest. So if you run into a situation like that where you're working with Dollar Tree mesh and it's just one of these, just put it at the bottom when you are doing layers like this. All right, here's my tail. I'm going to squish it together. Starting with my first pipe cleaner, I'm just going to lay the tail right on top and give it one twist. I always do one twist on these because once you start layering, you want to make sure that these are just not too bulky. We're going to go down, open our pipe cleaner on this side, bring it together, and of course on this side I want to make sure that this side is covered right here. Give it one twist. So I'm just going to keep it tight, and we're going to go back to the first one that we started with. Nice tight twist. And when I'm overlapping the second one, I want to make sure I cover this as much as possible. I'm going to go down and I'm going to cover this space between the first and the second wire. And then I'm going to cover the space between this first and second here to make sure that it's nicely stretched out. And now I'm going to be going in to the second one right here and give it a twist. We can bring these up later. Don't worry about it. Now we're going to do another loop where we're not going to be attaching anything. So make sure you have enough of the mesh stretched out. Okay, are you guys with me so far? So first we attached, did our loop, then did another loop because the first one we just covered the side. Then we're doing a freehand one where we're not attaching anything. Then we attached at the bottom, at the top. Now I'm doing a freehand one, meaning I want to cover these spaces in between. So I'm just going to loop on top and then go to the bottom right here. Cover this space. We're not attaching. Now that we got this covered, when we go back up, we're going to attach. Going over, and now we're attaching it. I'm going to do my best to make it here, but the thing is, we do want to have a secure tail. Bring it in, open up this pipe cleaner right here, the one that's right next to the stump, and push my Deco mesh right in there. And I'm not going to cut it because the way I look at it, I can definitely use it as a little bit more to fluff it out over here and to cover this. So there's no reason to cut it. It's going to be on the inside. And so right where this one ended, I'm going to grab the next set. And while I always like to keep it this way, for this we need to start it upside down where it's kind of swimming in, then put it inside here and lock it in. And the reason for that is we're going to go over now. Once I have it the way I want it on top, I'm going to go in and give it one twist right there. And then again, we're going to go in because we do want to cover the areas right here. And so this is where I go straight. Now it's time to attach again. We're coming to the end. This is the back. Here's my front and my last loop covering the ending, coming in from the top. Now I'm just going to cut off the excess. So we have our wires here, and because we have loose edging right here, what I am going to do is I'm going to do a little loop on the back, catching the one that was kind of freehand, and now my wires are in the back. I'm going to give it twists, and then just work it around. These other ones, they're not going to go anywhere and they're not going to slide off, so it's not that much of a big deal. But for the four ends, you want to make sure that this one that we did freehand is not going to slide off. So I'm going to go on the inside right here, give this one a few twists, and I'm just going to hide the wires there. Everything else, I'm just going to go around, give a few twists, and then you can either cut this off or you could just stick it in. So in review, we started on top over here, we attached, we made our first side loop, then we made our first loop on top. And then we needed to start covering the edges in between the wires here. So then we had a freehand one, attached one on top. A freehand one where it's loose on both sides and then attached on both sides. Loose, attached, loose, attached. At the end of the day, when we're done, what I did was in the back, I attached that first loop on the edges. Everywhere on the edges, that first one, I attached it with the remaining wire I had so it doesn't slide off, because this is a pumpkin and it's going down. These I'm not too worried about. They're not going to be sliding, but the ones on the edges, I really wanted to make sure that they were secure, so I just secured them in the back with some remaining pipe cleaners. The Deco mesh I'll be using is this beautiful light green, and before I get started, I just grabbed a pipe cleaner and attached it to the wreath form right there, just so we are ready to go. And it's kind of like making a curly wreath, except I'm just going to be rolling until I feel like it's going to be nice and secure without fraying. So I'm not measuring. I'm just going to give it a good roll. And then we're going to cut, and you can make as many of these as you want. I'm going with 3, so once I have my 3, I'm going to take about 1 inch from the bottom, stick it inside the pumpkin. It's the length that you feel like is going to be good for your pumpkin, and then just tie it in place. I'm starting with the buffalo check ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and here I'm just making a bow. It all depends on how big or small you want yours to be. And this is my little table vacuum, just in case you're wondering what I'm putting on top. Next, I'm going to grab some of this ribbon, buffalo check, then the leaf print, and then I'm going to do another buffalo check. The reason for this is the buffalo check is going to look really nice against the orange. This tail is going to be a little bit on the short side, which is absolutely fine. For bows like this, the way I bring them together is I take the whole bundle, I fold it in half on the inside, and then I take this half, fold it back, this half, fold it back, and it just makes such a pretty little bow. Bring it together with whatever's on hand. I just grabbed a pipe cleaner. And of course, since my buffalo check is on top, I'm going to use this leaf one to go around the center right here. For my buffalo check, I always just fold them in because of the fraying, and just make sure to give it 2 little twists. And since these are going to be flat, I'm just going to do the same thing here. Next, I'm grabbing another pipe cleaner, going around the center. This is what I'm going to attach my bow with. You make sure that's in the back before I do the finishing touch right there. All right, I'm going to fold my ribbon right here to make a beautiful little center. Just fold it in 3. And then here is where I'm going to hot glue it in place. Now here's our pumpkin, our greenery's on this side. I want this bow to be on the side like this. And for my bow, I'm going to attach it on this bar right here underneath. And then with this other side, I'm going to go through here. There you go, through right here. So I can attach it on top, secure the bow in place. We're going to fluff it out later. And now we're going to bring some leaves in. And I don't want to add too much. I'm going to throw in some greenery in here, and I'm going to go just straight behind the bow. Then I am going to grab some of this ivory, and I'm just going to shove it right in the center. You can attach it if you want. And then another stem I'm going to put on the other side, and I'm just going to feed it through, kind of zigzag it through the Deco mesh so it stays in place. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, if I want it to go down, I'm going to kind of do this, and this part is going to go inside. Okay, since we have the bow here, we need to balance out this side. This is where you can bring more florals in, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring all these leaves in here, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to keep them on the stem, and I'm just looping it around our actual frame. And I'm going to grab another one and hook it right in the center. Let me know down below if you ever made a pumpkin like this, or if you're going to give this one a try. And basically you're just going around the pumpkin. That's all you're doing, and then just connecting every other row to make sure that, you know, you cover all the edges and everything, and that's it. I think this wreath turned out so super cute, and it was absolutely easy to do. Here are the supplies for this wreath. I have a pumpkin wreath form. I have a foam pumpkin. This one's from the Dollar Tree, and it's about 4.5 inches in width or diameter. Then I'm going to use this beautiful bouquet. Look at this. Originally, it was $9.99, and I don't buy these unless they're a minimum 60% off. Next, I'm going to be using this beautiful blue and white fabric, and because it's a cotton fabric, it's a little bit on the thin side, so I decided I'm going to first use the white one and then overlay it with this one for a nice solid and beautiful print. I'm going to be using some blue and white ribbon, and this white one is really pretty because it's kind of lacy and sheer in the middle, and it has a beautiful design on the side, and it's just going to match the fabric very, very nicely, and it's going to give a little elegance. The first thing I want to take care of is the pumpkin, so I'm just going to take the tag off, and the way the pumpkin's going to go on my actual wreath is this way. Now I'm going to face my pumpkin the way it's going to be on my wreath form, and that is with my stub going a little bit forward because I want this part to show, which means I'm going to be cutting the pumpkin right here, a little bit sideways. Nothing extravagant. I'm using a letter opener. I'm going to be painting the pumpkin in a dark blue color, and the reason I cut this first is so we can take care of this foam part and paint this part to kind of seal it in. Grabbing some blue paint, I'm going to just start painting my pumpkin, and I'm going to give it 2 nice coats. My blue pumpkin is nice and dry, and the stem is actually this kind of gold color, but with my decor, I need it to be silver, so I'm just going to put a little bit of silver paint, and now I'm just going to let it dry. Now it's time to hot glue our fabric to our pumpkin. The size of the fabric pieces that you're going to need in order to cover these pumpkins from the Dollar Tree is approximately 22 inches by 17. Before I start hot gluing, I'm just going to grab a little clip, fold one side of my pumpkin, just fold that inch in and put a little clip on that side. Then I'm going to face it this way, make sure that I have plenty of fabric on both sides this way, and then I'm going to start by hot gluing my edges, and I usually do side to side, and I'll do a quick one just like this, and then this side exactly where the clip was. After I hot glued the sides, I'm going to do the bottom and then the top. Next, I cut 2 slits for the fabric that needs to go inside. And then now I'm just going to go all the way around the pumpkin and start bringing all the fabric in and hot gluing it in place. And now I'm doing the exact same thing with my blue and white fabric and just hot gluing it to the back. After both of your fabrics or one nice thick fabric is hot glued to the back, grab your pair of scissors and about an inch from the edge, clean it up and cut off all that excess. At this point, this is what your pumpkin should look like in the back and of course the front. As far as the stem of this pumpkin, I'm really not planning on having it shown because the flowers are going to cover it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab my blue ribbon that I have on hand and I'm just going to go down. Since I have my blue ribbon out, I'm going to make a simple bow. Make sure I have plenty of ribbon for the tail because I want the tail to be nice and long. Now for the white ribbon, I'm just going to be measuring the tail to be the same as my blue one, but I'm going to make my loops a little smaller. Now I'm grabbing a piece of floral wire and I'm going to bring the bow together. For the center of the bow, I'm grabbing some vase fillers from the Dollar Tree, and I know you see me use these all the time, but I love these. I'm going to cut off about 2/3 to 1/3, and I'm going to use the 2/3 in the center. And the reason I'm bringing some silver into this is because our pumpkin has a silver stem and we need to work just a little bit more silver into our wreath. For the ribbon tails, I'm just going to do these on a slant, so just cut a little triangle. Now we're going to bring everything together, starting with my flowers. I'm going to grab another zip tie and I'm going to tie my bouquet a little higher, and then it's time to cut my stem. Now I'm grabbing some floral wire and I'm first going through the top portion of the bouquet. The other floral wire, I'm just putting it through the zip tie for kind of extra security, but it's going to go in between the 2 zip ties, and so I'm just going to do a few twists. And don't use the flimsiest wire. You do want this to go through the fabric. I have both of them through the fabric. Now we're going to tie them around these metal bars. And I made sure that one side of my wire went on one side of the metal bar and the other went on the other. After making a few twists, I'm going to twist both of these together. Now it's time to bring our pumpkin in, and my pumpkin is going to go right on top of that greenery and the fabric. We are going to hot glue as much as we can and attach the pumpkin to our wreath form. Now that my pumpkin is attached, it's time to add the bow. So same thing, I'm going to use my floral wire and just poke little holes through where I want to attach, just like that. And that's it for this Spode blue and white pumpkin wreath. For this wreath, I'm going to be using this very soft, gorgeous, and dark orange yarn. And the first thing I'm going to do is just weave that first bottom row and zip tie the beginning of my yarn to the second row in the pumpkin. And of course, don't forget to turn the zip tie ending towards the back of the wreath. At this point, I'm going to undo my whole roll of yarn, and starting from the back, I'm going to section it off. And I usually do 2 to 3 sections. I make big loops, bring them together with a little wire, and then I start weaving my pumpkin. As far as the weaving, all I'm doing is I'm going in and out, and on the sides of the pumpkin, I'm going to go around and go towards the opposite side. So then you're going to go up, down, go around, down, up, and it's pretty much this repetitive process going around and around until you get to the top. There's a lot of yarn in the video and it's hard to see what I'm doing, so I just wanted to let you know that I work from the back, meaning I take my last bundle from the end of the yarn and then I weave that one, then I take my next bundle, I weave that one, and then the remaining yarn, and then I just continue going in and out, and it's a quick way of making these gorgeous pumpkin wreaths. When I'm done weaving, I'm going to take another piece of zip tie and zip tie the ending to the top of the wreath form. To hang the pumpkin, I'm using a piece of jute cord and I'm tying it to both sides of the pumpkin stem. For the florals, I'm going to use 2 types of willows, a very glam one and the yellow one. Then I'm going to use 2 bushels of the maple leaves and 2 bushels of mini pomegranate. The willow stems come with 5 branches, and I want 2 of each on one side and 2 of each on the other side, so you should have 1 little willow branch left over from each. Over the willow branches, I'm putting my pomegranates and then my maple leaves. For my florals to have a natural and beautiful look, I'm going to work in my pomegranates towards the front a little bit and work them in with the maple leaves. And then I'm also going to open up my florals on both sides towards the left and the right, so it gives it a bit of a fuller look. Now I'm bringing both floral bundles together, and you can keep them as far away or as close together as you would like. And for a good secure hold, I'm going to use a zip tie and tie them in place. Now it's time to make one of the easiest bows you can ever make, and it's called a messy bow. All you have to do is cut pieces of ribbon, and what I'm doing here is I'm taking any ribbon I have on hand. Most of this is going to be 2.5 inches, and the last ribbon on top is going to be 1.5 inches. But basically what I did here is I just measured how long I want my little ribbon strips to be, and I decided 9 inches would look the best, and I'm just cutting 2 pieces of each ribbon. This is one of those really cool bows where if you have ribbon pieces left over, this is the bow to use it on. After cutting all my ribbon pieces that I wanted, I just went on both sides of my ribbon and cut dovetails. Now I'm taking my ribbon, crisscrossing the pieces and layering them on. I'm going to bring my bow together with a little floral wire, and with that wire, I'm going to attach it to the center of my floral bundle. Now I'm taking a zip tie, wrapping it around the center of the bow and attaching it straight to the top and side of my wreath. For the final touch, I'm going to grab some of those yellow berries and I'm going to hot glue to the center of my bow.
To start this wreath, I'm going to use some white fabric from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to cut it to size, wrap it around the pumpkin, and hot glue it to the back of the pumpkin. Any excess fabric on the back, I'm going to cut off, leaving about ½ inch on the edges. Now I'm going to grab a Dollar Tree hula hoop skirt. You heard me right. We're using a hula hoop skirt for this wreath. And all I'm doing is I'm taking the top of the hula hoop skirt and I'm hot gluing it to the bottom back of the pumpkin. Then I'm going to flip the pumpkin over and start hot gluing that skirt to the front of the pumpkin. I'm going to do a little bit of hot glue here and there, mostly focusing on bringing my skirt up and over the pumpkin and hot gluing it to the back. Any excess skirt I'm going to cut off because we're going to need some in case you need to cover an area here or there, and also to the side of the pumpkin where there was not enough skirt. Grabbing some of that skirt that I saved from before, I'm going to hot glue it to the side of the pumpkin. To take care of the pumpkin stem, I'm just using some jute cord, slowly wrapping it around the stem and hot gluing it in place. Grabbing another piece of jute cord, I'm hot gluing it to the top of the wreath so we have something to hang our wreath with. For the bow, I'm grabbing this gorgeous ribbon that I got on clearance for $1.99. I didn't even measure. I made a long tail and then a simple bow, brought it together with a little clip. Then I'm grabbing this Dollar Tree burlap ribbon that's like a teal color, making another simple bow and putting it on top of our larger bow. Then I'm bringing both bows together with a little floral wire and tying it in the back. Next, I'm going to grab another piece of that ribbon, and I usually grab whatever ribbon is in the back. And all I did here is fold it in three, wrapped it around the center, and hot glued it in the back. Using the floral wire I already have attached on my bow, I'm going to poke the wire through the fabric. It's going to go through really easily. And for a stronger hold, I'm going to make sure one wire goes on one side of that middle row, and the other side is going to go on the other side of that wire row. In the back, I'm going to tie it together and your bow is all set. To bring a little bit more nature into this pumpkin, I'm grabbing 2 fall picks from the Dollar Tree and I'm going to attach more floral wire to it, wrap it around areas of the pick where I know it's going to keep it securely in place. I'm going to hide the floral pick behind my bow, and I'm going to do the same thing I did with the bow. I'm taking the floral wire and I'm going to poke it through the fabric in 2 different spots so it has a nice area to grab, and then tie it in the back. Now for bow tails. I made the tails long to make these ribbon tails because I thought it would look so pretty. So all I'm doing here is folding where I want the ribbon to actually have that little wave. Pinch at both sides, and you're going to move that pinched edge to the back of your ribbon, making that beautiful wave. At the end of the day, this wreath turned out very elegant and modern. To start this pumpkin, I'm going to cover the stem in a piece of felt. I just traced a piece about ½ inch larger than the actual stem and then wrapped it and hot glued it towards the back of the pumpkin wreath. To cover the back of the stem, I cut a piece of felt to size and hot glued it to the back of the stem. Now I'm grabbing a ½ inch grosgrain ribbon and I'm going to hot glue it and wrap it around the outside of the pumpkin wreath form. The reason I'm doing this is so we have a nice clean edge and the yellow will match the leaves that we're going to be using. Next, I'm taking a 5/8 inch grosgrain ribbon and I'm going to hot glue it to the back of the metal wire pieces that are standing up on the pumpkin wreath, and this is going to give us a nice base to hot glue our leaves. I'm going to be using maple leaves that come on a bushel from the Dollar Tree, but you can also use the ones that come in a pack. It doesn't matter. These are just a little larger and I felt like they were so pretty. As you can see, I'm working from top to bottom, overlaying the maple leaves one on top of the other as I'm going down. And I'm going to do this to all the pumpkin wires that are standing up, not the ones that are actually the outside frame. I left the base of the pumpkin alone, including the sides. That is why we had to cover that in the yellow ribbon. To decorate the pumpkin, I'm going to start with a little green, and I decided to use this 3.5-inch ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I didn't really measure it, I just wanted a long strip, so I would approximate it at about 20 inches, and I did 2 strips. One is enough. I was thinking of doing something else, and then I'm going to grab some Dollar Tree buffalo check ribbon, and I'm going to make loops that are 5 inches in length, which means those pieces of loops are 10 inches. As you can see, I used up a piece of ribbon I already had on hand, and then I'm proceeding with one that's full. This bow is a great way to use up ribbon pieces that you have on hand, because if you cut the tails short, you can get away with hiding them within the bow. To bring the bow together, I'm going to grab a zip tie to make sure that it's nice and tight and clip off the excess. To attach my bow to the pumpkin, I'm grabbing some floral wire, wrapping it around the center of my bow, and then attaching it to the 2 center rows of my pumpkin. In the back, I'm just tying it in place, and my bow is secure. As you can see, I decided to do ribbon tails, and I did cut the tails on the ends of the green ribbon. And to make our banner tail, all I'm doing is folding my ribbon in half towards the top, pinching at the sides, and bringing it back. The green and the buffalo check stands out so nicely against those orange and yellow leaves.
To get started on this wreath, I'm grabbing 88 20mm wooden beads. I'm going to be using white chalk paint by Rust-Oleum to paint them all white, and I'm simply putting them on skewers and then just painting away. Now I'm grabbing 22 14mm wooden beads, and I'm going to be painting them in a black chalk paint. You can definitely use acrylic paint for both the white and the black beads. Now my beads are nice and dry, and I gave them all just one coat of paint. This is the hardest part, and it's cutting the wire on top of that pumpkin, and we're just cutting the 6 inner loops, and we're just cutting them as close as we can get to that top form of the pumpkin. Now I'm just feeding the beads on, and I'm doing 3 white, 1 black, 3 white, 1 black. The 4 rows in the middle are going to use 4 black balls, and the 2 on the sides, they are going to be using 3 each because they are a little shorter. Before hot gluing the beads in place, I'm using some office paper clips to hold each row in place. To secure my beads onto the rows, I'm grabbing the second to the last bead in the row, putting a dollop of hot glue right in the middle, and then topping it off with the last bead. What this does is it unites the 2 top beads onto the wire, and they are not going to move anywhere. Now I'm attaching the rows back onto the pumpkin right where they were before. The stump of the pumpkin came off as I was removing the rows from the pumpkin, and here I'm just using a little bit of hot glue, and I'm hot gluing it back in place. To cover the edges of the pumpkin, I'm just grabbing some grosgrain ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and on a little bit of a slant, I'm just wrapping the ribbon all around the pumpkin. I'm using the spring lilac florals to add some color into this piece. I made 2 bundles and had one facing the left and the other bundle facing the right, and I attached both of the bundles with some wire from the Dollar Tree. To make the bow, I will be using this buffalo check ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to make a 6-loop bow, which means I prepared my tail, and then I'm just going to zigzag back and forth to my desired measurement, which in my case was about 8 inches, and I went back and forth until I saw that I had 3 loops on each side to make my 6-loop bow. Using that same wire, I attached the bow to the stem of my pumpkin, and now I'm just making little ducktails to the length that I wanted. When I was done with the bow, I felt like I needed a loop in the middle, which I forgot. So if you ever run into this situation, grab another piece of ribbon, make a little loop, overlap it in the middle, and then where you overlapped, just use a little piece of wire, bring it together, and then just attach it to the center of the bow. For this wreath or wall hanging, you are going to need 6 rolls of the orange Deco mesh from the Dollar Tree, and you are also going to need either zip ties, some floral wire, or even a chenille wire to attach the Deco mesh to the wreath. To get started, I'm just bringing the Deco mesh ending together, and using a zip tie, I'm tying it to the first row of the pumpkin. Now we're going to start weaving the pumpkin like a basket. The first loop that I made was going around the edge of the pumpkin, and then I'm just going to go forward. I'm going to go to the left, going in and out, around the edge, and then to the right, in and out, around the edge, and back and forth just the same. Keep on going, you guys, and just bring it together, making sure that it's not too tight. You want it to be a little bit on the looser end. That way, if you want to cover any of the green from the pumpkin, you can move the Deco mesh around. Each time a roll ends, I just bring together the ending of one roll and the beginning of the other roll, overlap them, and bring them together with my zip tie. Then I continue weaving just like I have been doing. Coming towards the end of weaving my pumpkin, I wanted to show you that basically all the connections that I did have, you can see my white little zip ties, they're all in the back. I made sure to overlap the little Deco mesh in the front, so all the zip ties are hidden. When I'm done with the pumpkin, I'm taking the leftover tail from the Deco mesh and I'm zip tying it to the top center of the pumpkin. To start my bow, I will be using this beautiful pumpkin ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and I'm making 3 big loops, making sure I have tails left over on both ends. I then find my center and then bend my little loops in half just to make sure that I am at the center, and I'm going to give 2 notches, one on one side, just cutting through the wire. That's all I'm doing. I'm just cutting through the wire and stopping. So maybe 1/4 of an inch at the most. There you go. Now I'm grabbing some floral wire and I'm going to bring the bow together in the middle and just make the wire nice and tight on the bow. Now I'm just fluffing my bow out and making sure it looks nice on my pumpkin. Next, I'm grabbing some leftover fall ribbon and I made a simple bow and brought it together with a floral wire. Next, I decided to grab this gold netting ribbon, which is from the Dollar Tree. I got it last year. And I'm just trimming the edges, making a simple bow and layering it in between my first bow and my second bow. I felt like I needed to add a little bit more to the bow, so I'm grabbing this Deco mesh tubing that I had left over from last year, and I made a simple bow and then just brought all the bows together with an extra piece of wire. Without cutting the wire, I attached the bow straight onto the stump part of the pumpkin. To complete the bow, I'm grabbing both of my wired ribbon and I'm making little ducktails, and then I did trim the gold ribbon also just to make sure it's nice and even. The florals I'll be adding are these beautiful mums and dahlias, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 2 flowers for each side. So I'm going to take 2 dahlias and 2 mums, make a little bit of a bouquet, bring the bouquet together with a little bit of floral wire, and stick it to the left of the bow, and then do the same thing to the other side and stick it on the other side of the bow. I kept the stems of the flowers 4 to 5 inches long. Using a floral wire, I'm just making sure that everything is secure in the back, including the florals and my bow. For today's wreath, I'm going to be using this pumpkin wreath form from the Dollar Tree. And Dollar Tree has been getting these in the last few years. And just so you guys know, look how big this thing is. It's 17.5 inches wide. Our regular wreath form, like the metal wreath form from the Dollar Tree, is 14 inches, the standard one at least. And so just so you know how ginormous this is and what an amazing deal this is for $1. For the mesh, I'm going to be using this white Deco mesh from the Dollar Tree. And at the end, I will let you know how many rolls I'm going to use because I'm using the Nadia method, and I developed the method around winter, but I'm guessing at least 4. So that is what I'm going to start off with. Because we are working with white mesh, I am going to spray paint this only once. I'm going to spray paint the back first, let it dry, then the front, let it dry, and then I'm going to be using this clear Rust-Oleum enamel to seal it in. And for paint, this is what I usually use, is the white paint and primer. So this is the primer, and I have the paint separate. My pumpkin wreath form is painted, and I'm going to put it to the side. Now I'm going to grab some of these pipe cleaners or chenille stems, and these come 45 in a pack from the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to fold these in thirds, which will give me 4-inch stems. If you go any longer, like, you know, fold these in half, you're going to end up cutting most of it off because we're just putting them around these wires. And if you're going to go any shorter, it's going to be harder to work with. So I find the happy medium being 4 inches for these chenille stems or pipe cleaners. The standard Deco mesh from the Dollar Tree comes in 6-inch rolls, and in length it is 5 yards, as you can see right here. And if we take our 5 yards and divide it by 15 bows, it's going to give us 12 inches, or, you know, vice versa. Take the 5 yards divided by the 12 inches that we need for each bow, it's going to give us 15 bows. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my mesh up. Apparently we have to make sure that Leo's okay with it. Leo, say hello. To make the bow, I'm going to grab one of my little strips and I'm going to overlay them 1 inch. I recommend a maximum of 1.5 inches, so about 1 inch to 1.5 inches, because if you go any longer, then your bow's going to be just a little bit too small. I'm going to hold it on top and just bring it down. Holding with my finger on top, I'm going to walk from the bottom going up. And then I'm just going to wrap my pipe cleaner, give it 2 twists, and then your bow is ready to go on your wreath. Let's make another one. I'm overlapping about 1 inch, holding it on top, bringing it straight down, pinching it with my finger, and if you're lefty righty, I'm gonna do it with my other one. I'm ambidextrous, so I can do it with either finger, but I'm just showing you it doesn't matter how you make it. And then this way it's going to come from this side. I'm going to tighten it up, get rid of the fray, and there you go. You have your bow, and now you have the frame that's locked right here, and the other side of the frame that's locked on the inside of the bow. And that's it. Your little bow is ready to go on your wreath. All right, I got my bows all ready to go, and I'm just going to start putting them on, starting with the loop that goes up. I'm not going to be touching the frame itself, just on these little sections right here. Before I continue, I wanted to kind of break it down. So as we know, we do have 6 sections. Section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. These are the sections that come up from the pumpkin, not the flat ones. We're going to leave the flat ones alone and not touch these. We are going to be putting 15 bows per section, and even though these 4 are much larger than this side, we're not going to be worrying about that. We might push it down because we are going to be decorating this section right here. Even though we're going to have 15, it's going to be more than enough. The most important thing is for these side ones to get filled because they are going to give our pumpkin the shape. And later on, when we're all done, we're going to actually take the sides right here, or you could do it now, it doesn't matter. And we're going to just kind of push them in and form them so that way the pumpkin doesn't have anything kind of sticking out, and we're going to keep the shape of a pumpkin. I'm going to continue and start filling all of these in, and then when I'm all done, that's when we're going to come back and decorate. As I'm filling in my pumpkin, I thought I'd ask you a question. Have you ever made a white pumpkin wreath? And if so, using what? Did you use white mesh like I'm using right now? Or maybe you used some twine? Let me know in the comments below. Our pumpkin is all done. I'm just going to tuck in the sides, basically kind of shape it like a pumpkin so nothing's sticking out. As you can see on top right here, I have a little bit open. I kind of squished it down, which is just fine. And by the way, this is 6 rolls of the white Deco mesh. We are going to do a version of my half loop bow, but this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a little bit different. For my ribbon, these are the ones I'm going to use. I'm going to use this orange, then these leaves, and the green. And as you can see, they are going to make a beautiful combo, and we're going to attach it to the top. My half loop bows, I usually do 28 inches in length because this is not long enough of a space. What I do is I do 14 inches. Let me kind of move it. 14-inch loops. Measure out my 14 inches. And then there you go. There's my measurement of the 28 inches. For each of the ribbon that I'm going to be using, I'm going to be doing only 2 of these 28-inch loops. Next, I'm going to make dovetails. So what I do is just I fold my really long ribbon together and then together again, cut from inside going out. And now to get started on my bow, I'm starting with the green one. And of course, I'm facing the outside, which is the prettier side towards the outside. And as you can see here, the edge kind of folds in on this side. So this is the inside piece. And I'm starting at my mark right here, going to 15 inches. And here I have my 6 inches. So I'm going to 15 inches and folding it back where I have my 6 inches right here. This is where I'm actually going to make this bow. So we're going to have a bow and one tail is going to be longer and the other one is shorter. Next, I'm going to grab the next green one and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to 15, fold it in half, and now I'm just laying them down. I'm going to do the same thing with all of my ribbons. Now that all my ribbon is folded the way I need them to, I'm going to grab a chenille wire. You can also use floral wire, whatever you want to use to put this bow together. I'm going to start by using the color that I want in the back, which is this green one. Then we're going to go to the fall leaves and then this kind of rustic orange. It's such a beautiful color. And by the way, yes, all the ribbon is from the Dollar Tree. So we're starting off by measuring 6 inches. As soon as I get my 6 inches, I'm going to bring it and put it between my thumbs. Then the next one, also 6 inches, I'm going to face it the opposite way. Next, 6 inches, the opposite way of that one, and then so on and so forth until you're all done. Quite easy. Each side I have a loop, a longer and a shorter tail, a loop, shorter, longer, loop, shorter, longer, and obviously this side is the exact opposite. Because this is so thick and we want this bow to pop, we are going to cut on the edges right here and just a little bit, literally a 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch depending on how big your bow is, but just like that, not too much, because you want this bow to stay together. I have my chenille wire right here. Make sure it's in half. And I'm going to bring my bow together and just tighten it up in the back. I didn't do anything special, just put the chenille wire around it and tied it in the back. That's all I did. Next, I'm bringing my pumpkin back up, and now I'm going to attach the bow to the 2 middle rings right here. Just give it a few twists. Then I'm going to put my wire through the stump right here, secure it in place. Okay, now I'm just putting my wreath on something, propping up on something so I can actually see how this is going to turn out. And basically I want one of my ribbons to go down and the other one can face up. So the longer one's going to go down, the shorter one is going to go up. I know this kind of does look a little bit chaotic, but trust me, it'll be okay. I fluffed my bow out just a little bit. Next, I grabbed these picks. Both of them are from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to do a combo of both of these. Bend them right here. This part that I'm bending, this is going to go behind our bow. And we're going to secure it in place with some floral wire that I have. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to bend it. After I secure it, I'm going to make sure that it's fluffed out the way I want it. I want these little twigs or whatever this is supposed to be to kind of flow down. But right now, let me just secure this in place. Grabbing my floral wire, and I'm securing it to the back of the pumpkin. And now this is where I'm going to finish up, and especially the small little tails are really going to come up. Things are going to get poofed out. Oh, this is going to be so super adorable. Let's go over the supplies we're going to need. First, I have these beautiful pearl picks. I got these at Michael's, but you can pretty much use anything you can get your hands on as long as it has white or ivory or whatever color that you have that is going to enhance your look. I'm going to use these as a filler to give bursts of light and to brighten my wreath. Next, I have some hydrangeas. These are not white, they're more of an ivory shade, and they do have a little bit yellow towards the inside of each flower. I have some sunflowers. Then I have some mini mums. These are light orange, almost like a yellow, and these are more reddish and orange. So I'm just using one of each. The last floral I'm going to use are these feathers, and they also have some of these brown little things sticking out, and you should be able to find them around fall at the Dollar Tree. For ribbon, I'm going to be using this beautiful ribbon that I got at Hobby Lobby. Another one of my favorites for fall from Hobby Lobby is this one, and it is adorable. I'm a huge fan of this orange one. It has just a little bit of shimmer. To brighten things up, I do have a white ribbon. I thought it would work so beautifully along with this pumpkin one and the orange one. And for a little bit of green, I'm going to be using this mesh ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I absolutely love it. And so does my little one over here. Thinks I'm playing, but this mesh ribbon is so beautiful. For a wreath base, I have a Grapevine pumpkin wreath that I got at Hobby Lobby. It was $14.99. Right now, this wreath form is at 40% off. So I think that's a great deal. While this one is playing with my florals, I wanted to mention that I will also be using some scissors, some of these wire cutters, and of course one of my favorite things to use is some zip ties. The first thing we're going to do is prepare our wreath form. You don't have to do this part, but I do like to make sure that my wreath is cleaned up. So anything that's sticking out like this, you would want to first see if you can tuck it in here or there, but if it sticks out like that, then just clip it. See, like this one, I think I can tuck it in somewhere. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. As you can see, I do have help today. Good job, little one. The next thing we're going to do is make the bow. The reason I do the bow before I do the florals is if you put your florals a little too close, then you're stuck with making a small little bow. But if you have the florals a little too far, maybe you'll end up making a bow that's bigger than you intended it to be. So that's why, to play it safe, I'm going to make the bow first. Grabbing one of my ribbon pieces, I'm going to kind of eye how big I want my loop to be and my tail. If that's too long, make it a little shorter or whatever. Just make sure it's where you want it to be. And I'm thinking this looks good to me. Then I'm just going to measure my other side and give it a little snip. So whatever this is, that's my length. I decided to make 3 loops with this beautiful pumpkin ribbon. So I'm just going to fold it. I'm going to make 3 with this orange one. So same thing, I'm going to measure. It looks like my white ribbon is going to be enough for 1 loop. So that's fine. That's why I made 3 of each, because I had a feeling that I'm not going to have enough of the white. And then, of course, the mesh ribbon, I'm going to have 3 of these. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make dovetails on all my ribbon pieces. The white one, I'm just going to put both ends together, and just like that. It's just 3 pieces of ribbon. They're not that thick, and there you go. Now it's time to put our funky bow together. I'm going to take my first strip, fold it in half, and then fold it in half again. And then after finding my center, I can either use my hand to do this, or you can grab a bow maker and just have that help you. After putting my first piece in the bow maker, I'm going to go to the second little tail and flip it. Then I'm going to go to the orange, same thing, find my center. And then this one is going to go loop on one side, tails on the other. Since this is a double-sided ribbon, I'm not going to have to twist anything. We're just going to lay it down. I'm going to put the white one in a little later than my green one. The loop is on this side, so I'm going to have to put the loop on the other side. And by number 3, you kind of can see where your loops go and where your tails go as far as the length. And then I'm going to repeat the same thing. Going to grab my pumpkin ribbon, and since the loop was here, I'm going to put it on the other side, and I'm just measuring it to the orange one. And then the tail that's underneath, I'm going to have to twist that. Then the orange, and then the loop is going on this side. As I'm working, I'm also putting the tails on both sides. This is just going to help you at the end when you're separating the bow and just making the bow. It's just easier this way. Now we're going to do our white one. Put that in. Of course, no twisting because it's double-sided. But with the tails, I'm going to put one on one side, the other on the other side. And just keep on going. And then, of course, this bottom one, we know it's upside down. So we're going to twist, grabbing a zip tie. And you can use a 4-inch zip tie, a 6-inch zip tie, whatever works for you. Let's cut this off. I have a pipe cleaner on hand. Going to use that. Let's twist this in place to attach it to the pumpkin. No one's going to see it in the back, so it doesn't matter. But now I'm going to go ahead and start opening my bow, because by the time we put it on the wreath, we're going to see just how much space it's going to take up, and we're going to see how much florals we're going to need. So this is very important. I'm going to attach the bow right at this intersection, at this crossing, and just twist the pipe cleaner in place. This turned out so fluffy and beautiful. Flip it upside down so that we can work on this part. The first thing I'm going to do is prepare my florals. I'm going to push all the leaves up, and I'm going to cut all my stems as long as possible. There are only 5 of these sunflowers per bushel, so I'm going to grab another one and cut one off. I'm taking the greenery off of these because I just think the leaves are a little too bright. Next, I'm taking my little pearls and I'm going to unwrap, and then you're going to have stems like this, which is nice. Since these are fillers, I'm going to add these at the end. Now I'm going to evenly divide all my florals. I'm going to start, of course, with our longest pieces. Then I'm going to use the hydrangeas, and I'm just laying things out at this point. A few of the orange, the yellow, or the orangey yellow. Now that I build my bouquet, I'm going to see how I like it. So we're going to do this in section. These will work together nicely. Adjust the height on them. Now that my flowers look the way I want them to look, I'm going to grab a zip tie and zip tie it together. One of my feathers, I want to go in a little further. So I'm going to put it a little higher, and then the other one a little lower. There's not much to this little section, so I'm going to attach it straight to my wreath. I'm going to do the second part so I can compare them and make sure they're pretty even. Then I'm going to eye to make sure I'm on in the same area right here. Zip tying it in place. You can use floral wire. You can use pipe cleaners to do this part. But zip ties just give me that comfort that I don't have to worry about the florals at all. I'm just measuring to make sure they're pretty much the same height. Now it's time to attach. I'm going to stick the tails right here in this section so they're out of the way. When you have it in the spot you want it, that's when we're bringing in another zip tie. And grab another zip tie and zip tie it a little bit closer to the top where I have my little mums. This side is done. And I'm going to bend it just a little bit like this so that my stems can go in the little hidden area right there. Zip tie it in place. Now it's time to add the elegance to this wreath, and I'm going to stick these straight into the grapevine wreath. You can hot glue them definitely, but that is up to you. Starting at the top, weaving it in, and then another 4-piece on this side, and then the rest of them wherever you feel like it needs a little bit of white here and there. I got distracted with this little one again. Oh my goodness, he's so adorable. He's playing with the ribbon on the sides. He's getting in my way, which I appreciate because it's just the cutest thing ever. Back to the wreath. I'm going to put one of these picks right next to the bow. That way it's just a beautiful flow of these little pearls and the florals and the big bow right in the center. And now I'm just going to play around with everything, making sure that it looks good. This is so much fun. On this channel, I obviously do a lot of Deco mesh wreaths, and I do all types of wreaths, paper wreaths, just anything that I can make into a wreath, I try to use and do. But I do not do a lot of grapevine wreaths because I find that not a lot of people are watching them. So let me know in the comments below if you would like to see more, if you make grapevine wreaths, because these are so easy. They make a big impact, a great gift, and I just think it's a beautiful addition to any home. I hope you enjoyed this wreath tutorial. In the comments below, let me know if you learned something new, a new technique, or a new way of making a pumpkin wreath. Thank you so much for being with us. For more wreath tutorials like that, don't forget to like, subscribe, and if you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Thank you so much for being with us, and we will see you in our next video. Somebody give me 5. Yay! Bye, guys!